Using the detailer lets us highlight lines and other details, thus the name, and on various things, not just Mecha or whatever. I mean, I'm using artoo-deetoo as an example here. But the nice thing about it is it's actually water-based, and it's very easy to clean up. So here I have artoo-deetoo's legs, two different examples. So here we have the leg just built straight out, just straight from the kit. There's no painting or anything here. This is actually a project I'm doing really quick, just for my kind of as a quick little gift for my neighbor. He's kind of helped us out through the years with different things. So I didn't know completely bonkers painting this or anything. So this is just a straight slap together, with the colors and the decals and everything. So this is stock. And then this one here, as you can see, has been actually, the lines and everything have been highlighted. But the nice thing about using something like this, as opposed to going over it with an actual pen, is that the lines aren't quite so stark. If you look closely at this, you can see that, they're actually more subtle. They're more realistic. There's nothing wrong with having the really dark, bright line, or dark solid lines, but I tend to kind of like the little bit more understated line work, just because, again, a little bit more realistic. But it's up to you. So what we do is, on here, you can see I've already started to put some of the detailer on the bottom area of artoo-deetoo's body. You can see it's on the third foot inside and on here. So what we want to do is we're going to want to take this, pour some out into a little cup. We'll dilute it with water. Okay, so we've put some of the detailer into this little cap. So now we're just going to take some water from our water pot, dilute it out. It's kind of bubbly because I just shook it up, but it's okay. It'll start to settle as time goes on. So of course you can use pipettes or whatever, but why bother? This works just as well. So now we can see here. Whoops. Now we can see here. You can see some of it running around through there. So what we'll do is we will now take our pen here, or our paintbrush, and we just start going over the lines of what we want to highlight. Just kind of get in there, follow it around. And it's okay if you get messy with this, because it's very easy to go back later and clean all of this up. That's the other nice thing about this product. I'm not on their payroll, incidentally. I've used this for years, and even though I do enamel washes, and I use MIG's products and everything, sometimes you just kind of want to do something really quick and easy like this. And the nice thing about this is you can use this on bare plastic. Sometimes enamel washes, if you try to do those on bare plastic, can eat into the plastic and can cause issues. So the nice thing about this is, since it's just water based, and just a definite surface treatment, you don't really have to worry about it really ruining your model. So for people who just want to do quick, easy builds and, you know, don't want to get involved in painting. I mean, I often do paint everything, but again, you know, sometimes just something like this will do. You don't really have to get involved. So for the people that want to just do their you know, quick builds, this product actually works very well. The other nice thing about it is it's actually made in different colors. Like I'm using black here because, of course, you know, black just, you know, kind of the standard. But they also make it in different colors. They make it in you know, rust color, so it's like a dark orange, brown. You can see here it's pulling in the corners, but again, it's not a problem. The next step we'll be able to minimize that. So yeah, we just kind of go around and just follow, just brush it on over wherever we think we need it, or what, you know. So let's just continue along. Incidentally, sometimes, you know, you might, as with a lot of water-based things, sometimes it might it might start beating up, because, you know, the fact is you are still putting water on bare plastic, and sometimes the plastic might just be a little bit too slick. So if that happens, just add a drop of dish soap, and the dish soap will break up the surface tension, and it should flow on a lot easier at that point. But as you can see here, I actually have not done that at all with what I've been doing here. So stock out of the bottle, it works pretty well. So you can already see we're pretty far along here already. You know, we're gonna want to get down into the deepest crevices here and everything. This kit, of course, is made to be where you can have, you know, you can have some of these different doors opened up and various armatures coming out and stuff for R2 to be able to access computer terminals and different things like that. I have not built this one like that. I pretty much glued all the doors closed because, again, with giving this as a gift, you know, I don't want to have to caution my neighbor about, okay, well, you know, be careful about, you know, such and such, or else you're going to lose pieces or parts or doodads or whatever. So I figured just easier just to close her up. So we can already see we're pretty far along here. So we're just going to continue coming up through here. Just going to kind of maybe get a little messier in there. Yeah, it was interesting. I was watching a few weeks ago, USA or one of those channels. They were running a Star Wars marathon. So they were showing pretty much everything up until episode 7. And I was kind of blown away at just how kind of dirty artoo-deetoo's lines were in A New Hope. Like all this stuff in here was like really, you know, just really dirty and grubby and everything. And I'm thinking, and for some reason, I don't know, I thought he was a lot cleaner. Maybe that's how you looked at Empire. I didn't watch all the way through to jog my memory. But it was like, you know, you see him rolling along with 3PO on the blockade runner when, you know, the Star Destroyer overtakes him, and he's already kind of filthy. You know, he's already got all these dark lines all over the place and everything, and it's kind of like, why is he so dirty already? You know, by the time he gets down there with Luke and everybody, it looks like he's already been through a war zone. Well, I guess he has been through a war zone, but still. So we're pretty far along here now. We're almost done highlighting everything. Of course, we go up here to the parts where the legs attach. I guess his shoulders, so to speak. Circle around there. And we're going to also kind of highlight this grill here. Sorry about having the camera off center a little bit. I need to, in case you can't tell, this is the first time I've done this. I've had people ask me why I don't do videos, and now you can see why. But no, hopefully you guys will enjoy this. It gets me used out of this, and try to make some other ones, different things. So, and there we go. That is that. Now what's interesting is already, how well this shows up right now, considering the lighting. I'm going to take some better stills with some better lighting to kind of really show what I'm trying to convey here later when it's all done. But I don't know how well that shows up, but even just straight out without any cleanup, looks pretty good. It looks pretty accurate to the movie already, just by swathing on the detailer. So I'm going to now let this dry. Okay, so everything's all covered up on the body, and as well as on the other leg. So now what we're going to do is we're going to wait for everything to dry, which it's pretty much dry now. It's a nice thing about this stuff, it dries pretty quickly. Now here's the other nice thing: no matter how long it dries, it will always still be able to be cleaned with water. Now, of course, the drawback to this is that you can't just, unlike an enamel wash that you can just let go and once you're done, it's kind of it. You have kind of that short working time, and then you're done. You don't have to worry about sealing it in. This stuff you do have to seal in. Once you get to the point where you like what you've got, I mean, well, you don't have to seal it in. It's just I highly recommend you do, because again, at any point, years from now even, you could still take some water or even just moisture on your fingers, and it will take the detailer right off. So what you're going to want to do is after you do after this step here, you're going to want to seal that in with a flat, either gloss or matte, whatever you want. I personally use Gunze flat clear aqueous, the water-based version, H20. The reason why I use that instead of the Mr. Color version of Gunze is because since the Mr. Color version is solvent-based, spraying that just directly onto the plastic, some plastics get a little wonky if you do that. I notice if you spray just a straight solvent-based clear on certain plastics, sometimes they'll get brittle, they might fog up or whatever, craze. But if you use the water-based version, you're good to go. You're perfectly fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to clean up the wash that we put on in the previous step. Now to do that, we're going to use a Q-tip. And now I really recommend you use a Q-tip with a really tight head, not a fluffy head like this. You want one to where the I don't know if you they're kind of doing a dance here. You want to use the kind where the cotton is actually wound really tightly. The reason why is just simply because you'll have better control over what you're doing as you clean up the wash. So we're gonna take our piece here. I'm gonna still probably hold it from the foot for now. We'll kind of do it a little bit backwards, but it works. So you take your item, gonna go over here to your water pot, just dip very lightly inside, get a little bit of water. You don't want too much, so after you get the water on your Q-tip, you're gonna want to kind of dab off the excess. And then once you do that, just like any other wash, you just kind of come in and you start to kind of run over it. Don't press too hard. You don't want to really get down into the lines and the crevices. You just want to do enough that you pick up the surface, take the stuff off the top raised areas. And the nice thing is, of course, if you end up taking off too much, you can always go back later and touch it up. You can always add more later. But right now, seems to be working so far. So far, so good. Haven't accidentally bared down too hard. Yeah, I've done that a few times. Incidentally, you may notice my bottle of detailer, talking about earlier about how it could sit for years. This bottle of detailer, I'm not kidding, I've probably had this for probably 20 years. It maybe even more. That's how long it keeps. So just make sure to add some water to it here and there if it make sure if it's not drying out. But the fact that it still works is pretty crazy. Maybe even almost 25 or even maybe even almost close to 30 years, frankly. I mean, I've had this stuff a long time. I'm currently 46, and I feel like I got this when I was like 18 or 19. So I've had a couple of different detailer bottles through the years for different colors. So I may be wrong, but either way, it's been around a long time. So it's a good investment. You buy a bottle, it's going to last you for a long time. And yeah, as long as you keep it from drying out completely, you should be good. You should be able to use it for many projects. I've used this stuff on so many different weird things, from just quick little assembly and matte coat projects like this to full-on painted customized Zoids and other weird stuff. There for a while I was like, I just swore by it. I wasn't even really using oils and enamels, enamels are a type of oil, I suppose, but I wasn't even doing the more classic washes. I was just using detailer. And then finally over time I was like, well, as AK Interactive and MIG and all those guys started kind of getting more of a system down, I was like, well, okay. But again, if you're just trying to do just something really quick and easy, this stuff works. Already you can kind of see here, we've got some good stuff here. It's looking pretty good for just being some basic thing we slapped on. And and like I said, the other great thing is you don't really have to worry about the working time. You can let it set overnight. You can let it set for weeks and come back and go to town, start working on it, and you can wipe it all down. So of course, the other thing is, over time, your Q-tip will pick up more stuff, so you want to kind of rotate it here and there, or else all you're going to do is just kind of spread the detail around, which sometimes that's not such a bad thing. Sometimes you kind of might, it kind of helps. It helps to kind of give an overall level of grime to the whole thing. So that can actually be a bonus. But we want our two to look used, but not completely down and out. So that's why we're going to try to kind of rotate the tip here and there. It's one of those things where I have to go back probably a few times and really check our work. You can kind of miss things, nothing like leaving a swath of stuff where you weren't expecting to, because then of course once you spray that dull coat on and you seal it in, well then you have gone to the point of no return at that point. Let's see, just want to make sure you get everything off, but I think it's looking pretty good. So we're gonna since this is a little bit moist now from going over it, we're going to still let this dry some before we go into this bottom area. So we're going to come over here to the leg, start working on the leg. So I'll finish doing this procedure here. I'll finish this cleanup procedure, and when I'm done, I'll come back and we'll spray on the matte coat and go from there. Okay, so we have the parts ready to go for putting on the doll coat, the matte coat, however you want to say it. And once again, I'm going to be using gunze-sangyo flat clear H20. Now, you know, if you don't want to airbrush, or if you can't get access to this stuff or whatever, you can also you can use any acrylic or any water-based matte spray. Vallejo makes some. In fact, you can even like in craft stores like Michael's, they make kind of a non-toxic. You can get spray cans with non-toxic matte spray, usually used for like crafts, like paper crafts and things like that. That stuff, I found that stuff actually works pretty well too. The key thing is you don't want to really douse the detailer with it, even because since it is water based. You know, if you go in it too hard, you can kind of start to kind of fade away. I guess it kind of waters down the effect. So you just want to kind of take some light passes with it and just kind of slowly build it up. Also, incidentally, for the head, this is actually, I used Gaia gloss black followed by Gaia Starbright Silver, just in case you were wondering. But honestly, you can use any silver you want. I'm not going to be masking off the gloss areas. I'm actually going to be just spraying this over with matte coat also. Simply because since this is kind of, I'm kind of going for a little bit of a more weathered, dulled effect here. I think maybe if I kept the silver part, the head, really super shiny, and it might kind of clash with everything else. So it's okay if the head, if the silver part gets a little dulled down a little bit, because I think it'll still at least match the rest of what I'm doing here. So let's fire up the airbrush and go from there. Okay, we've finished doll coating everything. As you can see here, everything is nice and flat now. And of course, the other nice thing about doing this, aside from sealing in the lining, is that, it takes away that plasticky sheen. So, it doesn't look quite so toy-like anymore. But you can see here that it keeps the nice subtle lines of the detailer. It hasn't affected them or anything. And we can now look at that, and we're pretty close to being done now. So what we're going to do as the last step, I'm going to use the Tamiya Weathering Master set A. I use this a lot for like tons of things. I think I've used this on pretty much every single kind of thing I can think of, from Mecha to figures to trains to planes, automobiles, tanks, you name it. I've used it because the cool thing about it is not just for doing not only to do like dust effects and things, but it kind of provides a good, almost like a dry brushing kind of concept for doing edges and stuff. And usually with that, I'm usually using the light sand, which is this one here. In fact, you can even kind of see that I've kind of used, that's what I've used the most of. So it just is, it's kind of a good all around kind of dry brushing thing. Now, of course, since artoo-deetoo is mostly white, we don't really need to do a whole lot of dry brushing there. It's going to be kind of pointless. In fact, it's not like a whole lot of this is really going to show up on here anyway, but it's worth adding a little bit of dust. So of course we're gonna just take the brush here, get a good amount of dust on there, like so, and we're just gonna start brushing the bottom of his feet. Kind of add a little bit. Whoops. Kind of add a little bit of that tattooing sand, I guess. Kind of get in there, do the hoses. It's very subtle. Again, on something that's white, it's almost kind of pointless, but it's enough. I think it's enough of a discoloration that it will be noticeable, just as a casual glance. It's unfortunately, I'm not really quite sure if it's going to show up on the camera or not at all. Maybe not, but maybe. Maybe we can even try a little bit of the darker sand color here. Try to mix in some of that too. Definitely shows up a little bit better on the white. The interesting thing about this is, of course, this being the Bandai 1/12 scale kit, it basically just size wise specs out to be the 6-inch Black Series. Very similar to that. Same scale, same size. It's just the nice thing about this is that it has a higher level of detail, of course, being a model, and it's not a mass-produced, pre-assembled thing. And here we go. R2's done. We can look at the thing. I think the sand seems to be showing up fairly well now. I'll try not to get caught. I'll try not to cast too much of a shadow here. Try to get around them and see what we can see. Looks pretty good. Once again, this isn't the perfect be all end all. It's really more just kind of a halfway point. It's not the same. Nothing's really going to be the same as a full paint job and a full weathering and the whole 9 yards. But this looks pretty good. Turns out pretty well. It's certainly enough to get by with. And so even though we used artoo-deetoo as the example here, everything that I've talked about in this can be used for really any kind of mecha or anything at all, really. Incidentally, you may have noticed, of course, the head is a little more dull now because, of course, I sprayed matte coat over the head too. But I don't really think that's such a bad thing. I think the fact that I kind of planned for that, because the fact that R2's kind of got dusty and everything, I don't think his head would be perfectly mirror finish in that stage. I mean, it's still pretty shiny. It's pretty reflective for what it is. And I think it just kind of adds a little bit more to the scale effect of the whole thing. So, something to kind of consider for, your own projects, should you ever try to do this. So I think that's pretty much a wrap. So, have you enjoyed this? I hope you did. Hope you learned something, or, just kind of had fun watching it. So, I'm going to try to make some more of these tutorial videos from now on. I've actually kind of produced a lot of stuff, but I've kind of been slow to get videos out, which is kind of ironic because I graduated in 1994 with a degree in video production. But of course, as always, how many college people actually use their degrees for, end up doing what they got their degrees in. But I'm going to try to do more a little bit here and there. But in the meantime, I hope this was fun, somewhat enjoyable, and somewhat educational. And I'll catch you later. Bye.